My guest today is making his third appearance on the podcast. He's been featured in Thrasher magazine, and his comedy album is available on all streaming platforms titled Addictive Tickle. I'm excited to welcome Taylor Clark. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me in studio here.
Yeah, it's the safety episode of the podcast. Is we good on the camera?
The camera's fine, I think.
Okay.
I'm
seeing it rattle a little bit, but
how I am is up for debate.
yeah, you look great. You had a big night last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I finally had sex with my wife.
And
long time
she cried
coming.
Again?
Short time coming.
Or was
for
it
me.
you that cried?
I always cry.
Yeah.
But I paused for sex.
But you did after the sex. You did the more last night.
I did.
Before we get into that, though,
Okay.
if you're following us
Such a
on
professional.
YouTube, make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you have a comment for Taylor and myself, want to talk about the safety of this episode or whatever, that was a lot of the comment. Yeah, there's probably cat hair in that. But look, throw a comment
with your
in.
Cat in the car.
I do sometimes. It's not my cat. But
The nerve
yeah.
of you to make fun of anybody else.
I don't know
For
what that
anything.
is. So like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. Follow the pod on Instagram, all right? But, yeah, you had a big night last night. Oh, shit. Did I ever tell you what happened right here? Like, do you see this ramp?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
And I'll probably never get to telling you what happened last night.
We're going to talk about this, but, okay, see that discoloring right there?
On what?
On the
building?
ramp? On the ramp. If you go up and
On
turn
the
right
ramp.
here.
All right, so
going
we're
up-
driving down Airport Road in Everett, Washington, towards the Boeing factory, and Adam is pointing out an on-ramp.
Yeah, see the on-ramp where they're turning right there?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
The discoloring on the barrier?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What happened, Adam?
Like 4 years ago,
Dun, dun, dun.
some guy was running from the cops, and he was on this road, and he was going like 130.
Mm-hmm.
He was like dealing or something. They were trying to catch him.
In his car, not on foot, right?
In like a BMW.
Oh, okay.
And he launched over the freeway. He didn't make the turn.
Oh, really?
And he went over that and landed on the other. There's like a 20-foot drop right here.
He like wallied over the he wallied the Jersey barrier in his car over the freeway.
All of this is like new
That
right
is
here.
sick.
Okay, so can you imagine being the guy on the
Wow.
other by the doors? It was at like
We're
4
driving
o'clock.
past it right now.
Yeah.
If you're listening at home.
Safety.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
Can't
Can
believe
you
I'm friends
imagine
with
being
you.
the guy outside the factory there, like, go outside and you're like smoking a cigarette, just trying to like kill time, and then just in the middle of the night,
flying
just
off the
fucking headlights through the sky, and then the sirens behind it. It's like directly out of Grand Theft Auto. He died.
I want the guy who's smoking the cigarette.
The guy in the car
Oh.
for sure died.
I thought you meant the onlooker.
I don't know about him, but
onlooker.
I know that you're not supposed to smoke on company property.
So he had it
that's-
coming.
Yeah, it was.
You work at
learned-
Boeing. You take the rules really seriously.
Bleep that part
And
out.
you're a smoker.
Bleep that part out, Henry. Bleep it. This
It's okay because I pronounced it wrong.
boing,
Boing.
boing.
I always say it like it's a spring.
So, yeah, you opened for Mark Norman last night at the Moore.
I did. I opened for Mark Norman at the Moore. 1,800 people, sold out. It was amazing. Amazing theater, awesome comic. He asked me to do it. I had to cancel a gig with you to do it.
Yeah, the gig. Oh, there's hair on this microphone too.
Yeah, you're a gross person.
Yeah, we didn't say why we're in the car right now.
yeah, we're on our way to gigs.
Yeah, we're going to Kelowna right now.
Mhm.
To
So from the Moore Theater to what I'm sure will be like, 60 people, 60 drunk Canadians at a bar?
yeah,
That's
I have
what these
no
shows will
idea.
be, right?
It's so Valina's been on. The listeners, I mean, we have such a dedicated following, dude. It's like it's out of control that like they're gonna be like, oh my god, Taylor's making his third appearance on this podcast.
You mean Quinn?
And yeah, but Valina.
Wow, how did you get Taylor for 3 times?
Three
Adam?
times on the podcast. That's crazy. Oh wait,
Oh.
I'm supposed to go this way, right?
You ever think
God,
you
I
would
hope we
do
don't
it
get pulled over
on
right
my
now.
podcast? Adam?
So 1,800 people at the Moore. We're going to 60, which is gonna be a hot 60. But like, what was that like?
Bro, what was that like? Where do you get your ideas? These questions.
Where did these ideas come from, dude? Like, how was it?
Well, it was awesome, dude. I mean, like, I have done theaters now, a handful of them, you know, but never one that big. Biggest room I've ever done, I think, is about 1,000. So that was, 800, almost double the amount that I've ever
sold
performed
out
in front
too.
of them. Sold out. They said it was like 1,400, but they opened up the tall balcony and sold them all. So I think it was 1,800 people all the way full.
God damn.
It was amazing. And the Moore is cool because it's like 3 levels. And the 3rd level's up really high, but they all are like, they come out really far. So you feel like even the balconies are really close to you. So whereas like a lot of theaters, you kind of have to project really far and like slow your jokes down a lot so you can like feel the laughter come back at you because the sound has so far to travel. And I didn't really get that. It felt more like like an 800-seater or a 700 or something like that than it did 1,800. But so when the laugh hits you, it's like a wall because it's coming from 3 levels. So I've never felt anything like that.
Yeah, I was just there like the week before. I sold out.
Opening for David Duke?
No, yeah, I sold the whole thing out myself.
Okay.
No, but I saw Mars Volta, and I was like just kind of like taking it in because I don't think I knew that you were doing that gig yet. But I know exactly what you're talking about with the low-hanging ceilings and shit.
Yeah.
Like it was,
Well,
the lower level, the ceilings are low, and then it's on top of you.
It was really cool. And Mark demolished. He was really awesome. It was cool because he showed up with like no handlers. I went and saw Nate Bargatze there. My buddy Joe Zimmerman was opening for him.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome comic. I came to check it out and hang out backstage and stuff. So I was like just there a few months ago and really saw like the inner workings of how they do a comedy show there.
Oh,
And
that Bargatze thing was recent?
it wasn't that long ago. 4 months ago.
I
or
thought it was a
something.
couple years ago.
No, it was this year. But Nate had like a tour manager. He had a tour bus. Whereas Mark just like shows up just like it's a comedy club.
Yeah.
Just all by himself, no manager, no handlers, just like show up in an Uber, pop in, demolish an 1,800 person theater for all his fans. And he didn't go afterwards and hang out and say what's up or whatever. He just wanted to decompress and have a drink and chat. It was like really cool, man.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was cool.
Did you open the show, or was there
Just
somebody
me and
before
him.
you?
Yeah, there was a God Mike guy who just kind of gave me an intro, and then I went out and did 20 minutes. Brought Mark up myself, and then after he got off, I went back up and just said goodnight and tried to sell my T-shirt.
Were people still kind of getting seated and stuff like while you were up there? Were they?
No, it seemed like the top balcony. I could see like light moving around or whatever. I could see the ushers seating people, but I honestly felt like I had everybody for the whole set. Like I didn't feel like there was a settling. It felt like everyone was paying attention. Like I had the whole room for the whole set. They're at full attention.
That's a weird feeling.
Not chatty or anything.
It's a weird feeling in a theater when they're not settled and you're like up there and you just in a club, like you can kind of command the pack, right? Like
you can hear everybody's like elbows move, in a club.
Oh, yeah.
In a theater, a lot of that ambient noise of movement and even just like subtle whispers is completely covered up by just like the monitors on stage of your own voice, which a lot of clubs don't really have good monitors, so you're hearing the same thing as the audience. So that kind of really helps, plus the just immense size of it.
It's weird though, don't you think? Like it's cool, but it's kind of like because I've done 2 or 3 theaters now. And it was Neptune, and then like the theater down, the like movie theater that they do down in Auburn.
Okay.
Which was really fun, but doing theaters is like such a different experience. Like it feels more like presentational and shit, and less conversational.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think why I like theaters feel like where you go when everything is done.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is as good as this is going to be almost. Like obviously everything can get better, but I felt that last night where I was like, oh, there's still fat on some of this, where I'm like, it's undeniable when it's a room that big and it doesn't get as big or as the kind of laugh you want or have been wanting a line to or a certain joke to do. So you have like an expectation for the joke and it just hasn't really been hitting, but you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And there was like lines like that last night where I was like, I need to just not do this.
Well, it's like Band-Aids that you have too, where you're like, I know I'm going to get something better eventually or like rework this, but like you
feel
have
like
to
you're gonna get to that room or land in that magical pocket, but it's like you kind of have a come to Jesus moment when you do a room that big and a line doesn't hit the way you want, and you have to be like, all right, like let's just either like I have to completely change that or just stop doing it. Like it's fat at this point.
Yeah, God, this is beautiful, man.
It really is.
It's like I was not expecting.
We're driving up to Canada. It's 9 a.m. The sun is shining. It's coming through the mountaintops.
Dude, it's like this is gonna be a
snow
really
caps still, or no? They're probably new snow caps. That's right. We're heading into November now.
Yeah, it's so wild.
Woo! The Great Northwest Wilderness.
This is like it's fucking crazy to be doing this week because like I was just in Kansas City last weekend. And like I went running while I was there because I take care of my body and it's a temple for me, and you know that we talk about it a lot.
I stopped listening.
But
What'd
like
you say?
it was
something
fucking
about your stupid.
What was it like? It was like October 25th or whatever, and I was out.
Hold on. Do you think I don't take care of my body? Was that supposed to be condescending or just?
No. I know you take care of your body, but some people like Quinn Fitzgerald don't. No, he actually he's
Q?
lost. Lil Q's actually getting.
He is actually.
Smaller.
He's getting ripped.
He's. I don't know if ripped would be the word I use.
High.
He asked me recently. He was like, I've been eating a lot of chicken lately. He's like, I've been eating a lot of chicken breasts, and I have so much energy.
Hey,
He's like, I can't go to sleep at night because I've been eating so much chicken. I'm like, how much fucking chicken are you eating?
Tell me if this is an issue. I go home, I eat 9 or 10 chicken breasts, and then I'm juiced with energy.
And I
can't go to sleep, but I do have wet dreams when I do. Is that me becoming a man? Is this, Adam, is this a part of puberty?
Did I ever tell you what
Tell me that's not a fucking great twin.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I can do very few impressions, but I got a good little cue.
Did I ever tell you
I'm putting out
when
a
he
rap
called
album.
me when he called me after doing a black room and like his
I was the only white guy there.
well he called me up. He's like,
I felt like the coolest guy in the world.
No, he called me the next day. He's like, he was super pissed off because is that sliding quite a bit?
The camera?
Yeah.
No, I think you're all right.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, he called me because he did a black room and he had a bad set. And the whole next day, he's like, he was in his head about it and he was sitting around in his apartment and he's like, I don't understand what happened. Like, I did this room and it didn't connect, and like, I don't know if it was the audience or what. Like, I've been reading a lot about the differences between like culturally black and white people and like why my stuff, like he went online to try and figure out, and I stopped and I go, Quinn
is going to get to the bottom of these race issues.
I'm like, Quinn, you're telling me right now you're in your apartment in downtown Seattle, Washington, and you're trying to figure out black people. Like that's literally he was trying
Detective
to understand.
Q is on the case.
I'm like, what are you talking to me about right now? Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Adam, let me tell you a few things. The little thing called slavery. Turns out, I don't know if you know this, really bad. I was on the internet.
He read about
Crazy place.
He was on YouTube for 5 minutes and he solved the problem. All right. So anyway,
this podcast could just be us making fun of Quinn for an hour.
Well, I mean, he was the last
great comic. We love him. We're not talking about any. We talk about Quinn Fitzgerald more than we talk about Mark Norman at this point. That's
true.
So that's high praise.
Yeah, Henry, you can cut that part out if you want where we praise Quinn. So anyway, we're going up to Kelowna right now, but like you've been fucking busy over the past few months with you're the director now for Seattle International Comedy Competition. Talent director. I don't know what the difference is. I don't really care.
I don't know. The director sounds someone like who produces more like, I guess directs each show or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with Norman, by the way, before we move on?
No, that's fine. I mean, I've known Mark for a long time, so it's like very cool. And we filmed that Comedians at Skate Park show together, so.
Yeah, I think we plugged that once on here.
I think so, yeah.
If you guys check it out.
It's cool to have a guy in your corner.
What's the name of it for people watching
Comedians
on YouTube?
At Skate Parks. It's on my YouTube, Taylor Clark Comedy.
Yeah, and we're subscribed on there, so if you go to the bottom of our channel, you can find Taylor's stuff too. So, all right. So you're the director now for Sick.
For Sick, which is the only reason I took the job.
The name?
The acronym is Sick. It's a Sick acronym.
I'm not giving that much. Keep going.
Keep going. What? Oh,
just what?
I'm the director of Sick. It's Seattle International Comedy Contest. It's kind of a mouthful, so I'm hoping that soon people only know it as Sick, and they look at this contest as like a comedy contest that's actually fun. Comedy contests generally have a bad reputation. I can't do that much to make it that much more fun, other than like book good comics and have as much fun with them and make it as an enjoyable experience as I can, outside of the inevitable stress that a contest brings a comedian. And we all know the reasons why a comedy contest would bring stress upon a comedian is because it's insane to think that you can add points to jokes and quantify them in with numerical value. Anyways, so it is a ridiculous concept, but at the end of the day, people buy tickets to comedy contests. Like, that's why every comedy club does it. That's why Last Comic Standing was so big. So you add a layer of competition, and for whatever reason, the shows get a little bit bigger, and people who can't normally draw hundreds to thousands of people to a show are getting up in front of crowds that big. So,
do people come as much for like the
It's a net positive, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. People like.
I hope so.
Well, it's marketable for sure. Like
right.
A competition it's something different than just like a standard comedy show.
Sure.
But do people come to the early rounds as much as they come to the late rounds?
I mean, almost every show from when I did it was sold out. And when I've hosted it too, it's like, 80 to 100% full, every one of these shows. And most of them are multi-100 person crowds.
That's dope. I'm excited about it. I mean, I've been all over the place this past month, so I don't like. I think it feels like I've been like, kind of like cross training almost, like just trying to do as many different rooms and like environments as I can. But I don't really know.
Cross training for this contest?
Yeah, like I feel like there's like a bunch of different places we're going to be performing, because there's rooms, like the competition's a Seattle competition, but it's all around Seattle. Like it's
right.
And so even though
it's 18 shows total, there's 3 rounds. The first round is in 2 parts, a preliminaries, and there are 16 comics in each of the preliminary rounds. And you do 4 shows in each round. So the first round, most people because it's 32 comics, only 10 go to the next round. Most people don't make it to the next round.
Yeah.
So it's 4 shows for almost everybody, and all 4 shows are pretty banging. But yes, 1 is in Seattle, and the other 3 are in outskirt areas around Seattle.
And those outskirts are fundamentally different than Seattle.
The
like,
demographic is different.
are different.
The audience is going to be different just based on the geographic location, 100%. More rural in some places, more, metropolitan in others. So,
from performing like around this region quite a bit, I felt that like where you have a joke that like it's a really strong joke in Seattle because because it's like those people are I don't know if it's more educated or like more what would you say, like if like more knowledgeable or more, I don't know.
I just want to let you bury yourself a little bit further. It's the difference between like a rural crowd and a city crowd is the amount of information that they kind of take in and what kind. Yeah. Right? So you could say it's education, but it's also just being around the amount of diversity and diverse people and lives that you experience in a big city it just grows exponentially when you live there for a while. Mm-hmm. So the type of sense of humor generally shifts, and the kind of jokes that are relatable might move around a bit depending on where you are.
But you don't really, it's hard to know what in your act is that way.
Until you start doing it.
Yeah, until 100%. You've done rooms like that. So like, I think doing the road has been, like people are always like, be careful doing the road because it can lead to some bad habits. But I think if you balance it with doing local stuff too, the two of them can help you get better. Like,
yeah, I think the ultimate goal, and not for everybody, but for someone who wants to work as much as possible and have as big of an audience as possible, is to be able to make your jokes kill basically at the same level no matter where you go. Mm-hmm. So the more rooms you get to, the more you can kind of find, without obviously sacrificing your, creative integrity, which is what they're talking about when you go on the road, is you can form some bad habits to where like maybe before you did the road you would have rolled your eyes at this joke, but now you're like, it works, it kills when I, whatever, talk about the airplane food or, something stupid.
That, and I think
couldn't think of a good hacky joke.
No, you can kind of, like you can almost pander to those audiences where you're like, I need this to work everywhere, so I do it in a way that's different than how I would want to do it, but I know it works better this way across those rooms. Like, yeah. And I think the whole like they always say like clean and dirty or whatever. A lot of that is like vulgarity, like just like how like swear words are probably some of the biggest things that I've seen with like clean and dirty, where like audiences kind of like tighten up if they hear too much swearing.
Just straight up too much swearing can ruin a set, for sure.
Yeah.
And in this, but that kind of, I don't know, I think that kind of goes for in the city too, but just in a different way.
It's fucking bullshit, dude. We love saying buttholes. God. Just some stinkhole
that's
action.
Some cheap gas.
Is it? Oh, it is.
405.
40. Yeah.
You're all filled up.
I filled up before we got here.
Now, this is why people tune into this podcast.
Just to know where the cheap gas is.
I hope they announce the gas prices while they go down I-5. So curious.
A month before it releases.
A month before it releases. It's like a nice time capsule of gas prices. Have you heard that Taylor and Adam episode? My favorite part is when they go by that tobacco store where they have $4 gas.
We could go back if you want to.
I wonder if they have an eggnog latte.
Shoot a short for it. It's a promo.
Excuse me, tobacco store. Can I have an eggnog latte?
What did you say to me when I was at
You were going through Starbucks and you're like, do you want anything? And I said, they don't have what I want.
They don't have what I need.
What I need. Those were my words.
So ridiculous.
And if you're wondering what I need, it's an eggnog latte.
God.
2 shots, uncut, cinnamon and nutmeg.
Wait.
That's my order. October through February.
Is it 2 shots of espresso?
Come.
What? I have never met a grown man. Grown could be debated, but a grown man that likes eggnog as much as you do. Where did it come from?
Well, part of it is just straight up, it's a addiction, like mentality, because I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I don't drink alcohol anymore, and nicotine and sugar and fat and caffeine, not nicotine, caffeine, sugar, fat, eggnog, all together, a little bit hot. It just gives me like almost as close to a cigarette feeling as I've ever had in my life.
There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff.
So I chase it.
You chase it with eggnog?
And it's like $7 a cup. It's just like smoking.
Is it seriously that expensive?
Yeah, 6.5 with a tip. $7. That's like a pack of cigarettes.
That's fucking wild. But
So,
is there
gross,
espresso
I
in
know.
it?
Yeah, I do 2 shots of
Okay.
espresso. Did you think it was really cum? God, you were gullible.
I know you like
Classic Taylor.
He loves some
You
cum.
only go to Starbucks? Did you not know those little mom and pop coffee stands give you cum shots? Those bikini
Delicious.
baristas serve all kinds of stuff.
It's fucking out of control.
This podcast took a turn.
We jumped around from sick a little bit, but what, like...
And it's that kind of humor. That's why they put me in charge of this contest.
You guys got this. Go out there. But
Maybe make a cum coffee joke? Anyways, good luck.
how many fucking videos have you gone through?
Over 250 videos at least
And
that I watched.
there's probably, I know there are comics that watch this podcast and listen to us and subscribe wherever they're rating and reviewing us.
Right.
What advice would you, based off of like going through all that, going through your first round of fucking accepting videos and reviewing them, what advice do you have to comics that submit to competitions and festivals so they don't fuck themselves?
It's so funny to be on the other side of this, but high quality footage, good angle, see your face. You would think that goes without saying, but it is very amazing. It's amazing how many tapes I got that were like borderline unwatchable or unlistenable because of the quality.
Do you think it's necessary to have, like, to be mic'd up through the soundboard?
No, not at all. But at least, like, can I hear your jokes, right? Is there a buzzing in the background? Like, is the speaker fuzzy? All of that stuff. But it's just like a clear tape, like you can get it on your phone. I've saw lots of phone submissions that look fantastic. People got into the contest with phone clips, but they were like from a good angle, the lighting was good, and I could hear them clearly.
Mm-hmm.
On outside of that, first 2 minutes have to be like pretty strong, because if it's meandery or you're talking about the room, how you guys doing, that kind of stuff, you might lose somebody who's watching it and has to go through 300 tapes if you don't actually get into material within the first 2 minutes, and especially if you don't start doing well within the first 2 minutes. So you kind of got to open pretty strong, something original. If you open with like a I look like this meets a that type of joke, there's a lot of people open with jokes. Your joke might be really good, but I'm watching a lot of submission videos. When I hear kind of like a very common opening, it definitely like brings my expectations down quite a bit. Those would be my biggest pieces of advice. Open strong, open original, but more than anything, just make it like viewable, listenable, high quality. Do well in your tape, maybe too.
Like, what were some of the things you saw that helped people really stand out?
That's it, man. Good openings like that. That was the strongest thing. Someone who comes in, gets right into their material, and has like a joke I haven't heard before. you know, at least to keep me going through the first 2 minutes. And if you are doing well for the first 2 minutes, almost guaranteed I finish your whole set.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, and I know a lot of people won't. I know bookers and other people who run contests and festivals or whatever won't finish a tape if they can just tell someone's good right away, and they'll just put them in. But I really want to know. I figure people are submitting kind of the set that they plan on doing, like to compete with, not just prove that they're good necessarily. So I kind of want to hear if there's anything that I'm like, I don't ever want that joke in my contest. So I want to make sure there's nothing too alarming, for if nothing else. But I also just want to see how good they can do for an entire set. So I watched. If anyone does really good for 2 minutes in, I pretty much finish it.
Yeah, I think a couple things you said, like, at least when I started submitting to that stuff, like, I didn't know the factors you're like battling, right? Like, the person watching it's got 200 tapes they're watching, so like you have to look at it from like their point of view rather than just like, oh, this is the tape I'm putting together. Like, how do you get them quick? How do you keep their attention? And how do you not create a reason for them to turn this tape off?
Yeah,
which is different than like, I feel like submitting a tape is like submitting a resume, and it is a reflection, like the actual quality that you're putting together is a reflection on the comedy you're going to do. Like
100%.
Thank you.
It's also good to know what you're submitting for. So if you're submitting for a contest or something specific, they might be looking for something different than just like a hot 7 minutes. So know what you're submitting for so you can submit the best tape possible. I will also say I'm very much aware of how hard it is to get a good tape before you start even doing the road or featuring or anything like that. Like, most comedians are in the like bottom 90% essentially of it's open micers, guest sets, hosts, and like young features. That's who submits to festivals and contests and stuff for the most part. So to just be like, get a good tape, well, go get another good tape. It's like, oh, I'll just wait another 6 months till I get on a show worthy of having a tape recorded. So I understand how difficult it is. So I have a lot of empathy, which is honestly why even if a tape was really bad, I would still give it at least 2 minutes.
Yeah, you wouldn't judge it based off of the...
Well, some people got in with that where I'm like, well, fuck, I can't see them that well, but man, they are killing, and I love these jokes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, they probably just submitted this because it was the best fucking tape document of their comedy that they could get for the time being, because it's hard to get really good tapes, you know?
Yeah.
Someone walks in front of the camera, the audience turns on you for no reason, someone heckles. Like, there's a million reasons why that can sabotage a tape. And since you're not allowed to edit, you really have to do a top to bottom, this is my act type of set, without riffs and without crowd work, and the circumstances all have to be kind of perfect. So I remember listening to people say that and feeling condescended to, where they're like, everyone just gets booked every night on perfect shows. So I totally understand, but that is, it's Frodo's journey, and so you just have to go on it.
Yeah.
Also, it's good to submit even if you don't have it. Just keep because I noticed immediately that there were people that submitted last year. I went through some of last year's tapes, and I was like, if now knowing that I'm going to be looking at tapes again, people who submit for a second time, if there's improvement and like their tape was maybe not great or they had a bad angle or something last year, it says a lot that they're still trying and they're growing. So, and that they're in it, they're not going anywhere. They're going to do it for years and years. And that's really what I'm looking for, like lifer comics. And I think most festivals and stuff like that are looking for the same thing. Bookers are not looking for someone who's just kind of funny but just experimenting with comedy right now. You want people who are in it, trying to have careers and stuff. So someone who submits regularly to everything, it's a sign that they're in this to win this, if that makes sense.
Dude, it's so weird how in stand-up, like, it is this like entertainment adjacent thing where you get people that like, they just kind of assume that they're funny, right? Like, they're like, I'm a comedian now and I'm funny, and they haven't like learned the actual craft of doing it. And it's like, you have like basically like actresses
nobody
and
who's
shit.
really doing this to me that I've met and respect ever feels like they fully mastered this.
No.
The only people I ever talk to who feel like that are like 3 or 4 years into comedy.
Yeah, it's like actresses.
Not my
like,
style, bro.
But it's, I don't know. I think it takes like a certain level of like ego to go up there. But like usually the funniest comics to me are the ones that like think very poorly of themselves, like off stage or whatever. Like,
well, I think that's one way to look at it, but I feel more you have high expectations, or a comic has really high expectations for comedy for themselves, and they're borderline unachievable, so you just never ever feel like you've hit your full potential.
mm-hmm.
And it can kind of present, I think, a lot very just, because of comedy's nature, self-deprecating or egoless or whatever.
It's such a douchey passion, though. Like the, like there's. It's such a. I remember hearing Norman talk about this.
It
where
really is.
It's like nobody really gives a shit about this as much as like people in comedy, and I can already. I mean, you've been in it way longer than I have, but like, I can already see like people are gonna start dropping off 5 years in, 10 years in, 15 years in, where it's just like they're not like, if you're doing it for like the things that come out of it, you can't really like, you can't operate that way. Like, you have to operate from a place of like, I love doing this regardless of like what I get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I do get stuff, cool. Like, but if you're sitting there like, until I get SNL, I'm not successful with this. Like, even the people that do get SNL, they're upset because they don't have a movie. And if they don't have a movie, then they didn't get, the special that guy got. And it's just a bunch of people that are super self-obsessed, like comparing themselves to each other in an area that like most people don't even give a shit about. Like, most people don't give a fuck about
but
comedy.
most people don't give a shit about basketball, right? Like, everything's like that to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what.
Don't fucking say that on my podcast. Ball is life.
But nobody cares as much about the thing about basketball as the basketball players,
For sure.
Of course, that's always going to be the case.
But what kind of fucking society are we living in?
Like, the difference is everyone has like played basketball for the most part. They know kind of how it works, like how to shoot. Everyone's tried to dribble a ball or shoot it before. Almost nobody has tried stand-up. So nobody cares about stand-up in a different way than a lot of things, because nobody, they have no touchstone to it whatsoever.
They don't know the difference between like what's really hard to do and what's simple.
How any of it works. Like, for most people, even big fans of comedy, literally still think, and I remember thinking this when I first started, and I was really young, but that it's just a guy up there being funny. You don't even know how rehearsed the jokes are. Yeah,
the illusion of spontaneity.
Yeah. Like, how do you remember it all? That's like the number one question people say. Like, do you do the same thing twice? People say ask these. These are like the most common questions. So,
God, that podcast. Listen to the Be Well podcast.
At Skagit Regional Clinics.
Fuck that
in
podcast.
Riverbend, Washington.
No, don't listen to that podcast. I think it's kind of crazy that there are all these like comedians out there that like they take this stance of like social well-being and like fucking virtuous concepts and like, oh, this message behind the joke or whatever. Like, we've joked around on it about it, and like most of their time is spent comparing themselves to each other in this tiny subcategory. And I'm one of those people, like, for sure. Like, it's just, you're sitting there comparing yourself to other people, getting upset about all this dumb shit when like none of it is that significant. Like, it's crazy. Like, it all is based off of like whether or not somebody got this thing or that thing, and most of it comes down to like luck. So I don't know. I've gotten pretty
the
like.
Thing though is like luck is one of those things that happens once, and when people something lucky happens and they have continued success after that, well, then it's not luck.
Mm-hmm.
There's many factors at play.
But even those people, like they're, I don't know Norman, all right, you know him better than me, but like there are people that started in and around when he did, and he's clearly done something right because he's very successful.
It wasn't one thing. This is what I'm saying, is so many things that he did. Many people in the same era of New York comedy as him did. And it wasn't one thing; it was a lot of things, and all of those
even with
things,
all of his success, there's somebody that started in and around when he did, and they're like, that guy, fuck that guy, you know, like he only got that.
I could have done that too if I
had just stopped, you know, working this pizza job or whatever.
Sure.
And the thing is, like the guy, like he followed his dreams and was successful doing that. But even when he does, there's a group of people that are like shitting on it. So it's just, it's crazy to me, like. It's the most
crazy.
It's the most toxic life pursuit that you possibly could have. Like, just
as someone who worked in real estate, I venomously oppose that statement.
Okay, that's fair.
Any corporate environment, if you think this is toxic, like just go step into any corporate office.
Oh, for sure.
It's gross out there. All industries have backstabbing and hate and bitterness, and
it's just money, dude. Money like makes people.
It's money. When you tie it to something that's like creative and biased, it definitely takes on a different level of I don't know, toxicity, because then it's a lot easier to be opinionated and feel right when it's not like, well, your numbers aren't good.
Well, that, and then there's also the piece of like somebody's like, this person sucks because I'm unhappy that they have what I wanted. Like
well, you want just like not like someone's comedy. I mean, I do this all the time with comics who are having success. I'm like, man, that guy sucks, or that person is so bad at comedy, but they're doing something right. Like, the success does not happen by accident to anybody. So it's easy to go, well, fucking that guy, I don't like their comedy. I mean, obviously some people do, they're having success, but that person sucks. Why aren't I having success? And you got to, at that point, go, well, it's not because they're funnier than me, right? Because if you have whatever your
sometimes it is, though. Sometimes it
depends
literally
on who's
is
talking, like, obviously. But what I'm getting to is that either you have to do things that they're doing outside of being funny, or you're not going to be successful. Because we all know some of the funniest people on earth never make it, and it's not because the only people who make it have the most talent. They're doing a lot of other things. They're checking a lot of other boxes other than just their act being good. I remember this in skateboarding where it was like, man, why is this guy not sponsored a professional skateboarder yet? They're like the best guy at the skate park, and it's legitimately just because they don't go do all of the other stuff you have to do. They don't film parts, they don't take photos, they don't go to the events and stuff you need to go to network with the right people that have the companies that pay skateboarders. So they're just always going to be just the guy who's really good at the skate park.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens in comedy every day, where someone is so focused on their art, which is what you do need to do. But if you don't also focus on your career, you'll never have a career. Period.
Yeah, it's very like counterintuitive. There's not, I mean, I was lucky where I met some people early on that like guided me on a lot of that stuff, where they're like, yeah, so you got to get up, but you also have to do these other things. But like, I think talking to people on here helped me navigate a lot of that stuff too, where it's like, you can't just like do one thing and think that it's gonna result in like it's crazy to me that the people that are just like, yeah, I'm gonna write jokes and then one day I'm gonna have a Netflix special, like, and that also is like having a Netflix special
this is what
not,
I think I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna make one TikTok.
I'm gonna crush this 5 minutes in. Send it to Netflix via TikTok.
and they're gonna give me an hour.
I'll sift through the oncoming onslaught of phone calls from my managers. I'll pick one, bada bing, bada boom, I'm the new Norm Macdonald.
It's crazy.
Little Q signing out. He also sounds like Casey Kasem for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm Little Q coming in with the top 40 from 1958.
I think I read in Stanhope's book, like there's like two groups of people in this space. And I know this is like kind of I guess I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm making some changes just in what I'm doing outside of like just like work and what my plans are for the next couple of years. But like there's two crops of people in comedy. One is the people that are like, they're never gonna like crest what it is that they're trying to do. Like they'll never
Anybody out. I think I was that guy. I mean, I give all this advice, but I learned this the absolute hardest way possible. And I like had to quit comedy and come back to recognize all of the things that I wasn't doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 12 years in. I mean, like, I literally quit. So I was the guy who everyone was like, well, you know, like, that's what happens when you just only work on sets and just use it as a, like, I was very social. I liked going out and drinking and doing sets and doing mics and doing shows and producing shows. And I worked really hard on my, I can't even really say that now in hindsight, but I worked kind of hard on my material and my sets.
Mm-hmm.
But I never worked on my career, ever. I never submitted for festivals. I never went out of town. I didn't try to put in FaceTime at clubs. I didn't do anything except for bum around my local scene.
And that's, I mean, he mentions that where there's two crops of people in comedy. There's one
Stanhope
that like,
mentions
Stanhope
this in his
said
book?
this, where he's like, there's one group that they're never high enough.
Right,
Like they will always continue to be dissatisfied because they haven't, like, there's always somebody making more or doing
Sure.
whatever. And then there's another group of people that view this as like an endless party. And they didn't mean to like even start to begin with, and they're going to ride it until it's done. And I'm starting to like, I think.
That's it? Those are his two crops?
Yeah. It was just.
Stanhope's amazing.
It's. I think there was more to it, but.
I want to know if that's the full context. There's two crops of comics.
Just.
Sad losers and people who like to party.
Well, I mean, sad. Fucking like people that have success and are never satisfied.
Yeah, never satisfied, sad fucking losers.
How many people do you know though that are like that though?
Cool.
From people that you knew from New York where they got like a credit or two, and you know, you would think like, oh, this is what would lead them to being satisfied, and then they're still like, oh, I didn't get this and so got this, and
this is the most common thing I've seen with people. And this is one that I've definitely noticed even in myself, is that you feel like one thing is going to happen and then everything will kind of gel and you can like relax and you'll just kind of sift through offers.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not the case at all. I had a friend who got his like Conan set, and immediately after it happened, he sent his avails to like literally every club in the entire country. I think he lined up like one weekend or something out of all of them. And pretty much everyone was like, never heard of you. Congrats on your Conan thing.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas people who toured the country trying to get spots, doing guest spots, featuring for people, going broke, trying to put in networking, FaceTime at all of those clubs from the early part of their stand-up career, when they first get their TV credit, all of those clubs already know them, so they're excited to work with them and give them a weekend now that they can maybe draw a little bit more, have been a little bit more legitimized, they can advertise their new credit, etc.
And they know that person.
And then some people get that credit, they send their avails to every comedy club in the country, and they get no's because that's what's going to happen if you don't know anybody, you don't have any referrals or whatever. And then follow up the next year and the next quarter and hit all those places up again and try to have another credit and something else to offer. And then more bookings happen. But a lot of people in the early stage before credits send out avails once or twice, don't get anything back, and they go, fuck this.
Well,
and they just don't stay on top of it. It requires like, I heard this really great quote. I think I don't know who it is.
6 touches or whatever.
Well, that's
sales?
like a sales thing. But I was going to say, what most people don't understand is aren't ready for or aren't willing to do. I forget how it goes exactly. Listen to what I'm getting to. Most people aren't ready for the monotony of success. And doing all of this stuff is monotonous.
Mm-hmm.
The social media, the sending of emails, the amount of rejection, the getting up, watching your video, editing,
It's
making
work.
things. It's not fun necessarily. It's definitely not writing jokes and getting up and doing stand-up, which is like my favorite part. But if you want to get better at stand-up, the only way to do that is more shows that are bigger, better. And then once you have your own fan base, you can get even better at stand-up because you're articulating your voice even further for something more specific. So if you want to get really good at stand-up and you don't do all of the other stuff, then you won't get, it will slow your progress.
I think I used to subscribe to that thought process.
Which thought process?
What you just said, the like bigger, better, whatever. And I just have seen enough comics now that like I really respect what they're doing, and I think they're super fucking funny, and they figured out how to do it without bigger, better, whatever. You know, I think there's some really brilliant, like Jay Markovitz was just on, and I think Jay is one of the funniest people I've ever met.
But you don't think he would be getting funnier if he was doing more shows that were having bigger crowds? Like, of course he would.
He would be getting better at the craft of stand-up, but being funny and being good at stand-up are two different things.
That's not what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying, getting good at stand-up. Being funny...
I think even if you're good at stand-up, if you're not a funny person, go fuck yourself. Like, it's so weird.
That's so ignorant, dude. Some of the best comics in the world are not funny off stage.
Okay, but I don't want to be friends with those people.
But
like,
are we talking about being a good comic, or are we talking about finding friends?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, just in general, like,
that's not the conversation. I mean, you want to talk about the philosophy of existing. That's like a different conversation.
I think
the funniest people I know would never do stand up because they don't need it.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think like most of those guys that are in New York that I respect what they're doing on and off stage, there's an alignment between who they are on stage and off stage. It's not this character that they play that's like this fictionalization of like what is the funniest. Like when they get off stage, they care a lot about you as a human being. Is like that's a big piece of it. It's like, are you still human? Do you give a shit about the conversation that's right in front of you? And most of those people don't.
What do you mean? I don't understand. They don't give a shit about the conversation they're having, like they're not present.
Yes,
they're
looking over their. I heard this thing about Dane Cook, where like before Dane's brother stole all of his money, he would be at like the Laugh Factory or whatever, and it didn't matter who he was talking to. He was always looking over their shoulder to see if there was another person that's more whatever. And like, I've met super successful people in my life, not in relationship.
Maybe the person talking to Dane Cook really sucks at talking to.
It was Bert Kreischer that said it, so possibly.
Yeah. He's, I'm sure, a true delight at every moment.
But even still, like it was.
No, I've heard that about Dane Cook too.
Later in his career, though, he stopped doing it, and Bert asked him, he's like, "Why'd you stop doing that?" And he said, "Because my brother took all my money, and I got fucked, and I realized like what was important." And I think when you're so caught up in like being successful and making money and doing all this shit and being the best at comedy, you lose that ability to connect with individuals.
That's not a guarantee. I mean, like, you can be really good at being a person and really, like, two things can be true at the same time. A lot of people like to refer to these exceptions as if like that's a standard, but I know plenty of people who are really driven comedians and like really good dads, you know, and like.
But it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, where you're balancing this.
Yeah, it takes
No, like, okay, I have the
etiquette,
ego
tact.
to do all of this stuff, but then on a dime, I can stop and make this person feel like as important as the 700 people that I just
Sure.
performed for. It's like, it's really hard to do. And I think going back to like Jay, because I'm fucking coming full circle like a motherfucker on this. Like, one thing I respect about Jay is like, when I've seen him talking to any person, he doesn't talk to people differently. Like, and maybe I'm putting him on a pedestal right now, but just like, there are people like this that I've seen in comedy where they're not, if a really successful person comes up and talks to them, they treat everybody the same. And I think that's really, like, not losing that is important. And if you do lose that, then you're like kind of preaching to the audience, and you're not connecting with people. You're like, it's just an act, which is fine. Like, there's a place for that or whatever. But that's what I'm like battling with right now is I just like, I want to be able to do this thing to the best of my ability and like be as good as I can be for myself, but I don't want it to be at the expense of like, I got into this because I was a fan of comedy. Like,
Sure.
I don't ever want to go like have somebody come up to me be like, hey, I really like your stuff, and be like, thanks, dude, and just walk away. You know, like.
Yeah, I think you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't want all of your self-worth to be tied up in whether or not your sets are going the way you want or you're getting the opportunities you set out to get.
Yeah.
Right? That's a really good foundation to build on, but I don't want you to like think that that it's like one, you can't have both things, because there, like I said, there's lots of comics who are really good at balancing this out. I think knowing that it's going to be difficult when you're setting out on it, this journey, and when you're setting out and you know that you're going to be in this for life, regardless of how much success you have. Mm-hmm. Like, I've said this before, but like, for the most part, you don't have to tell a comic that you have to keep doing this. Like, you're better off telling people that they should quit. Because if anybody's going to quit, and that all it took was one person to tell them to quit, then they were probably going to quit eventually anyway. The people who do this are doing it because they honestly just feel like they can't stop even if they wanted to. It feels like a little bit like a calling or an addiction or whatever you want to call it.
It's like, I don't have a choice.
Right.
Like, if I weren't to do this, I would be somehow more miserable than doing it.
Yeah. But your overall, but your overall mental health and physical health and all of that stuff and relationship health has to take priority. Because without that, your comedy will also suffer too. If you really want to be one-sided about it and you only want to service comedy, like having a good mind and good relationships and all of that stuff puts you in a better place to be funny anyway. And that even if you're a full psychopath and you only live to service your comedy, which a lot of comics do, I will also say that having, a well-rounded life is good for comedy too.
And that's, I think, dude, like 2.5 years now, I've lived and operate on this like, oh, I just need to do as much as I can. And like, I don't know if somebody said it once, like if you're going from one mic to the next, like and that's all you're doing, like, what are you going to talk about at the next one? Like what happened at the last mic? Like you have to live a life that you are like excited and happy and is interesting, like you were talking about like uniqueness and people like originality and shit. Like you're gonna be original talking about what everybody else is already like. How many people have you heard talk about Kanye this week?
Honestly, that's another part of it, is that so many people, and I think this is like a 3 to even like 7 year trope, the 3 to 7 year comic trope, is you stop watching specials and other comics and not going to headlining shows and stuff because you don't want it to influence your voice and don't want it to like rub off on you. And then you actually fall out of touch with what people are talking about and what jokes have been done and like what ground has already been covered. And then you also stop getting inspired and knowing what like real killing sounds like and feels like. So you get really, people, I notice these comics get really out of touch with what is good anymore because they're not absorbing other comics.
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about this last night where I miss when I did go to New York, like you're just so immersed.
Oh, yeah.
You're around so many different kinds
Watching
of it.
the best comics in the world live regularly is what it does to your bar for your own comedy is you can't put into words.
And you just like think it's like a language, you know. It's when people are speaking it all the time. Like if you're doing one show a night here,
you live in it
for like an hour and a half or whatever versus like 4 hours a night. Even if you're not the one doing it, like you're around it so much, it's just you're so much more involved with it. But anyway, let's stop. This was the end of the high horse. I don't even know why I started talking. None of that was funny, and
but that's your podcast is funny usually.
I don't know. I don't think so. It's stories and
yeah, sure.
fucking just have my friends on and talk.
Yeah. It's a conversation podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think there are times where it's funny, but
I mean, we had some good riffs on Lil Q.
Yeah, we did. We'll cut
so those
some
9
of them.
people who know him are gonna really love
Dude,
this
he's been
episode.
on here a lot.
Has he?
Yeah, he has. All right, lastly, we're headed to Canada. We should probably, like, fucking wrap this up in a few minutes, just time-wise, but have you done comedy in Canada at all?
Yeah, I came up here and did Hecklers in Victoria.
How was that?
Great. Canadians are great crowds. Famously. I mean, I only have that one experience, but some of my favorite comics ever are from Canada. John Doerr, Phil Hanley, Tom Green.
Ian Baggs from up
Ian
here.
Bagg.
Obviously
Tom
Norm.
Green. Norm. Alanis Morissette.
What are the crowds different though in any way? Like you said, they're better, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Better. They're good. They're hot crowds. They're very polite. You know, Canadian stereotype. They're very nice and kind, patient. Big laughers. They like to drink. Get a little drunk.
Is there anything you want to do up
Nothing
here?
specific. I mean, I want to skate a little bit. It's beautiful out here. I wouldn't mind doing a little nature run, but nothing specific. I honestly just want to work on comedy.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so fucking tired. I'm like, just being in hotel rooms for like those 3 days too. I gotta figure out a better like routine on the road because I just
Treat yourself like shit.
no like my favorite thing to do for sure is just to like, oh, I'm gonna watch like dumb shit on TV and just lay and like be a fucking vegetable. And hotel rooms, because you don't really have a good place to sit in a hotel room. Like it's either just be on the bed or be at the desk. And as soon as I get on the bed, I'm like, oh, let's watch what's on ESPN at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. And then I'm watching like college football and all this dumb shit. But
yeah,
it also is fun, you know, like it's easy to get comfortable, you know?
Trying to create healthy habits on the road has been difficult, but I've definitely gotten better at it the more I do it. Try to
Really?
like, not spend a bunch of... What do you mean, really?
Because I can't figure it out at all. Like, I just want to be a piece of shit the whole time. Like, I had to fucking...
My last trip, I started eating fast food again. I've been like a pretty good vegetarian most of my life. 90%, I would say 95%. And then like same with like just very little processed food altogether. But I fucking just started eating Taco Bell and Chick-fil-A and just garbage on my last tour. And I haven't I've been eating meat again, and which means just like unhealthy food, processed ass shit all the time.
What do you get at Taco Bell?
I get Taco Bell's actually the one that you can get everything vegetarian. So even when I am eating meat, when I go to Taco Bell, I still get all the vegetarian options.
But
so
what do you get?
You can get anything. I get a cheesy gordita crunch, a cheesy bean and rice burrito, and a spicy potato soft taco. That's and I usually can't finish it all.
Do you want to get it on the way here?
No, I just literally had it last night. That I haven't fucking lit up this car yet is a true miracle.
Really? Yeah, I had...
And 2 Cinnabon Delights. Ooh. Fire.
You go to Cinnabon?
No, they got them at Taco Bell. The little mini Cinnabon stuff, like little
shooters.
Shooters. They're little cream or whatever frosting stuffed cinnamon balls.
Jesus. They're like... It's amazing how
That's
bad.
my run. But yeah, I am very good though. I've always work out. I always drink a lot of water. I always write a lot. Those are the habits. When I first started going on the road, I was like, I wanted to make sure I at least maintain my habits that took me a long time to develop. Because then when you get off the road, you can't like snap back into it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to like maintain that consistency. So those things I try to do.
It's so
writing,
boring.
social media, and working out, trying to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do something up here, but God, it's just so fucking boring.
What?
Like,
Just being on the road?
No, like just the work of it. Like it's not fun.
What, watching your set and editing it and writing a new line and then
Yeah,
trying
like
it out?
I don't know. It's fucking brutal.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we've been talking about for an hour.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. There's a thing about habits where it's once you do it for long enough, it stops taking willpower. Do you know about this? Where it's like you do something for long enough, just like doing sets even, right? Like at first, do you remember how much work it took to just get yourself to go to a mic, to go to a show? And then eventually it's just like, no, I don't even think about it. It's just what I do. It's baked in now. It's the same with anything. You just bake it in to where like I mean, having a good attitude towards it as well. That's my problem, especially with social media, where I just cannot make myself not hate it.
Dude, it
so
sucks.
Every time I work on it, even though it doesn't take as much willpower anymore, I still hate doing it.
Dude, did you listen to Zuckerberg on Rogan?
Some of it, yeah.
I got through like half of it, and I don't really listen to Rogan very much, but
he's got an earbud in right now listening to fucking Bert Kreischer and Joe Rogan talk about beer.
I didn't even know he had a podcast, but...
Joe Rogan?
Yeah, Joe Rogan has a podcast. I don't know if you know this. But it's so crazy where Zuckerberg was talking about how, like, his whole life has been about, like, helping people connect with one another through these platforms. He's like, I think people are at their best when they're connecting and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, this guy's basically a computer. Like, why is this guy in charge of all of us connect? Like, it's like the guy's throwing the biggest party ever, and he doesn't know what people want at a party. And like, they were talking about suppression and like, you know, how all the algorithms are like basically like determining what we do and don't see and shit. And it was interesting, like, seeing how he navigated, like, every question he was asked, there was, like, a long pause, and it was sort of like, what am I going to give away and tell people? Because everything's changed so much over the past 10 years. Like, it used to be, if you just posted a shitload of stuff, shitload of people saw it, and now it's all based off of reactions and timing, and, like, he mentioned, like, there are certain things they really want people to see. Like, if your cousin has a baby, that's not something that you want to miss on your timeline. But like, there businesses and shit that have just posted super frequently about, you know, whatever their thing is, just to keep it at the top of the chain, and it's caused this clusterfuck. So I don't know. I was looking at it. It was like I need to figure out some way to just like get my shit out there in one big pop, and then not because it's not working either. Like you can just see the numbers dropping. Like the more you post, the less it actually connects. What is that?
A hawk.
Oh shit.
It depends on what you're posting too. I mean, it can't be understated that like quality content does better.
I need like ass and titties, dude. Like those always do well.
I think people fall into this trap on social media, especially comics. It's dangerous because you're trying to be like an artist, whatever, a craftsman. Put your stuff out there, be funny, doing stand-up. But social media is so addicting, so everyone's chasing those likes, those views, those numbers. And so you start just doing whatever it takes to get the numbers up, and then you almost lose sight of why you're doing social media in the first place, which is to like build fans for your comedy.
Has it actually led to ticket sales for you?
100%.
Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Not everybody that I know with a good following has experienced that.
Well, that's what's so interesting is like, how do you build your following and who are they? Some people build an Instagram following for strictly their stand-up, and maybe they're very funny or interesting, but maybe they're also just like very cute. And you know, some people follow Instagram's comics for reasons other than I love their stand-up, and I would love to be in the room while this is happening.
It's like because they're hot or whatever.
Maybe they're hot, or they're just like, oh, this guy always talks about like this one subject, and it's great when I'm on the toilet or whatever, versus building like real fans. So that's why I think finding a niche and something really unique that people, you know, easier said than done, but like are attracted to buy tickets to is how you do it.
Dude, did I tell you about the guy I opened for recently that was a social media guy?
No. Who?
I don't say that. Yeah, I'd rather not.
I opened for Trevor Wallace. He's huge on social media. And sells hella tickets. Yeah. And he's actually does do an act. Like he is a stand-up.
But the audience is weird. From the sense of
I mean, I opened for him. It was like a really good crowd, audience-wise. I feel like some of it is those audiences may not follow other comics. So they're really the only comic they know is this guy.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like their expectations. I did a show recently, and it was the easiest show I've ever done. Like I said one line, and I was getting like applause breaks possibly. And like,
wait, were you or weren't you possibly?
like it. I don't know why I said that. It was really good. I fucking killed that show, you son of a bitch.
You always
kick you out of the show. No, but like seriously, it was. I was up there. I said something, and it was just like this huge reaction. And I almost like I got off stage. I was
possibly got an applause break.
I mean, I could have waited
depending
for
on who you talk to was there.
I don't.
But I know what you mean. The crowds don't.
I got a fucking applause.
The crowds don't watch a lot of stand-up, so then they see like. And if they follow some maybe just funny person from social media who happens to like be doing touring comedy clubs,
they were fantastic.
They don't even know.
People. They were great. Like all of them came up after the show and they're like, "Hey, like want to follow you, want to like, you know, learn more about what you're doing." But they're not like normal comedy audiences. They're not coming like they have these built-in expectations based off of what they've seen. And the craziest thing is like. They've seen a lot of the jokes that the guy or girl is doing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, they're just going to see this. And I guess that goes back to what it was 15 years ago where people got an album and then they went and saw those jokes performed live. But, I mean, we've talked about this, too, like, where you said, like, you've gone and done stuff off your album and it's, like, weird for you because, like, some of the people are like yelling out the punchlines and shit. And
yeah, little moments like that, or that I honestly just am uneasy about doing it because I'm nervous that they've heard it already and they're not going to like it, so I don't do the bit really as much, and I just kind of say the lines. Sometimes I think that's part of it, but I think every audience is very different. I mean, like Jim Gaffigan, they're shouting out Hot Pockets at the end. He still does like an encore with Hot Pockets.
God, can you imagine?
You know, Bert Kreischer still closes with The Machine, I think.
I saw Stephen Lynch at the Neptune.
Depends on the comic.
and he to close his show out. I don't know if you know him.
You saw who?
Stephen Lynch.
Oh yeah,
he's the guitar comic.
Yeah. Well,
And
I don't know him, but
he's like
I liked him back in the day.
He's got like 3 albums that are killer. I was telling Gabe this when I worked with him.
I was really
like,
cranking it.
Yeah. And he's great, but like he
I bet
closes
live
out
he's
the
been
show.
crazy.
He goes, okay, like he does his new stuff, and then he goes, okay, and here are the songs that you all love and I fucking hate doing because I've done them 10,000 times. And he does like the 5 bangers that everybody wants to see. And it's like, that's him like paying for his audience, essentially, you know, like that's a piece of this that like people don't really talk about.
But that doesn't happen for everybody. And honestly,
No.
like you'd be so lucky, right? Like then that's why he still does them.
But isn't that weird where it's like, hey, push him out on stage? And I guess musicians
Yeah,
are the
but
same
every
way.
band, I mean, yeah. And that, like, again, how many comics have a bit that is, or a song that is like so insanely popular and like a part of pop culture at this point that they would get those kind of requests or feel mandated to do the bit at the end? It's got to be less than 10 people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's
Like
changed
definitely not
quite
something
a bit.
to worry about. Like,
No.
I just hope I don't get so big one day I have to, you know, do a world famous joke of mine at the end. It's like, man, that'd be a pretty good problem to have.
Yeah, I agree. I guess like in whatever it is, there's gonna be piece of that too, right? Like you're never. I think it's this like almost like this flawed mindset of like I'm gonna get to this point where I get to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, as much as I want to do it, and like that's every like artist's dream or whatever, but that's not. You might as well just stay doing, 3-minute sets at a bar somewhere, because
if you're just
then
all
you're
you
already,
care about is process, then yeah, who gives a shit?
And you said this before, and I thought this was like really, like, actually, not profound, but like,
okay,
I can't fucking talk. The last like 4
Can it just be
episodes of my
profound?
goddamn podcast, just wait. The border crossing is in 2 miles.
Less than that. It's like right
Fuck,
here.
dude. Okay, we got to wrap up pretty soon, but you said in every level of this that you're doing.
Pull off on this exit and grab a coffee before we go across.
Okay. Every level that you do this, you're serving someone else. So when you host, you're serving the show, but you're also serving like the feature comic and the headliner. And when you're pull off here,
Yeah.
when you're featuring, you're like kind of trying to help the headliner with their merch or whatever, and make sure you serve the show, obviously. And then when you headline, like, you have to close the show, so it's on you to make sure all those people have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But in none of those positions is it like it all about you, and it's almost like this mindset of, yeah, you get to this place where everything becomes about you, but it's not. Where are we going?
I was just gonna look for a coffee stand.
Okay, but this was your own original thought that I'm butchering, but I don't know if there's a coffee stand.
I
Let's just go.
think it's a delusional mentality to think that at any point in comedy is it all about you.
But that's what every comedian wants. It's like they just go back at the
The
end of
only
the
thing
day.
that's ever
we're
all
just
about you
kids
is
that didn't
the
get
focus, right? So at every position of comedy, while you're on stage, the thing that is all about you is the focus. So what can, that's where the power is. What can you
don't
do
like
with
that.
that? What do you do with that? And do you service all of the people that you
I don't like that.
you're responsible for? Don't like what? Anything that I'm saying?
Wait, is that a... Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Is this a Bikini Barista?
One can hope.
I don't know if it's open, dude. It doesn't look open.
It's open.
Look, I think what I've learned recently is that it doesn't matter how hard you work at this.
Oh,
Okay.
Let me just wind up by saying, and I've learned all of these lessons the hard way. I can't reiterate that enough, to how not good at following all of this advice and philosophy I was coming up, especially my first 10 years. But I think the best way to enter this is to have big goals, high standards, and zero expectations. Because like you said, almost nobody makes this, you know, and everyone's definition of making it is always really different as well. So that's where I'll leave it.
And now that we're here,
I don't even know why I'm friends with you. I don't know why I agreed to this.
And
your sense of humor sucks.
Okay, so we do got to wrap up just because we got to cross here. But where can people find your stuff?
I am online at Taylor Clark Comedy. People needed that. Hold on, let me back up. www.taylorclarkcomedy.com. www stands for World Wide Web. Taylor Clark Comedy on all of the things. Listen to my album on Spotify, iTunes. My YouTube needs a lot of love right now. That's it, baby.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people on YouTube now, so
nice.
Make sure and subscribe to that channel. If you are watching us, make sure and rate, review, throw a comment in, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss our content. And if you are just listening to us, rate and review wherever you're listening. This was fun. You know, this podcast is, if I post stuff in the community section and leave a question or comment for Taylor, do it so I have questions to ask him. I'm just trying to figure out this on my own, so help me out if you can. I love all of you. I miss some of you. I haven't talked to a lot of you in a while, and this is going to be a weird trip, I think, but it'll be better if you follow us on Instagram and follow what we're doing. Rate and review us. This is the longest outro I've ever recorded. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool.